Hey everyone, this is Andrew at Plainview Farm, and if you are watching this video, there's a good chance that you already know that there are a lot of people in the United States and even around the world that are trying to get back to a simpler kind of lifestyle, which means that there are a lot of people that are leaving the hustle and the bustle of the urban areas and they're trying to move out into rural areas and either start a farm or begin a homesteading project. So if you're one of those people that is looking to make a change in your life, or maybe you're already in the process of making a change in your life, well, this is the video for you. So if you're looking to start your own small-scale farm or homestead or direct-to-consumer farm, one of the things that you have to have in place from the very get-go is you have to know your why. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. You have to understand your motivation and whether or not it's true. You know, there's a lot of people, they look around at the rural lifestyle, they look at the rolling hills in the springtime with the lush green grass, the trees in the fall with all the beautiful different colors of all the leaves. They look at the cropland, they look at the gardens, and they think of these plentiful gardens full of vegetables, and they get all these warm, fuzzy feelings about nature, getting back to nature. Yet the reality is that while nature is absolutely beautiful, it's going to fight against every single thing you try to do, especially if you're not working with it. Those animals that are roaming the hillsides that are full of lush green pasture, well, they like to roam the hillsides on your neighbor's property as well. And the crops that are growing out in the cropland, they like to have water, whether it's a drought year or not. And the garden, all the pests, all the bugs and the raccoons and the varmints, all of those things, they love to eat your fresh vegetables just as much as you do. And even though forecasters talk about averages whenever it comes to weather, there is no such thing as average. There is no season that is ever truly average in terms of weather. There are seasons where you have too much rain. There are seasons where you don't have enough rain. There are seasons that you may have a bumper crop, and there are going to be seasons that you're wondering, why am I even wasting my time? Now, I don't say that in order to discourage anyone from trying to live this lifestyle. In fact, I love this lifestyle. I don't want to do anything else. But what I am trying to do, again, is to get you to understand what your motivation is. Whenever those animals get sick and maybe you lose one, whenever you lose a crop, whenever one fails, are you going to be able to keep going, to stick it out, maybe look at what you did and try to analyze and say, well, what did I do wrong and how do I fix it going forward so maybe it's not as bad the next time around? Or are you just going to throw up your hands and quit? You know, I'm only 39 years old, which I still think that 39 is young, and I've already, in that short span of time, seen a lot of people move into the area where I live, and then before too long, they look at all of the rest of us that live here like we're crazy, and sometimes they say as much, and they pack up all their stuff and they leave. And usually whenever they do that, they are leaving with less money in their pocket than whenever they got here. So again, it is critically important that whenever things get tough, you have to know your why. You have to remember why you're doing what you're doing. Now, the next thing that you need to do is look for a gap in your local market. Find a market, find a niche, and try to find that one thing that you can do really well and do that. There are a lot of people out there, they want to do all kinds of different stuff, and that's great. That's wonderful, and that is definitely something that you want to try to work toward. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, as they say. However, it's very difficult to learn a lot of different things all at one time. So my advice to you would be, again, to find that one thing that you enjoy, find that opening in your market, and get good at that. If you can become the egg person at the farmer's market, or the chicken guy in town, or the pork farmer, the guy that grows lettuce, whatever it may be, if you can become known for that, that helps you to build a customer base that you can then build on in the future, that you can use to grow from and as a springboard, so to speak, whenever you are ready to start branching out into other things on your farm. And here's a for instance for you. It was about 12 or so years ago whenever I made my initial excursion into direct-to-consumer farming. And what I did was I decided that I was going to focus on pastured poultry. So I started to build that pasture poultry market, and I did it slowly. I tried to work up. My very first customers were friends and family, and I was able to start filling orders, and then before too long, through word of mouth, friends and family began to tell other friends and family about what I was doing, and eventually I had these standing orders for chicken at all times. Basically, I knew that whenever I ordered in a group of baby chicks, that I was going to be able to sell every one of those baby chicks. And trust me, that is a really, really good feeling. So then once I felt like I had a good enough handle on raising chickens, I decided that I'd try to raise some feeder pigs. So the first group of feeder pigs that I bought to sell was a group of 5 large black hogs, and I already had this customer base in place to try to market these pigs to. So I let all of my customers know that were buying chickens from me already that I had pork for sale, or that I was going to have butcher hogs for sale in the coming months. And within a couple days, every one of those 5 hogs was sold. Now on the flip side of that, a couple years later, I had to take a step back from our farming operation because of some family health issues, and I basically let all of that go. I let my customer base go. I stopped raising chickens. I stopped raising pigs for a while. I didn't do any of the things that I had done before. Then whenever I decided that I was ready to start back up again, the first thing I did is I went out and I bought a group of, I think it was like 13 or 15 hogs. And this time I didn't do any groundwork. I had let my customer base go. So I had nowhere to go with these pigs once they were ready to butcher. I ended up advertising all over the place, trying to figure out where I can sell these pigs, who I can sell these pigs to, and I did sell the majority of them, but at the end of the day, I had to take a loss on several in order to just move them along. So it's very important that before you jump in with both feet, that you have an idea where you're going to go with your products, and that there actually are customers out there who want to buy them. And this brings me to, I guess, a secondary point that I want to piggyback onto this one, which is it's a good idea to grow slow. It's important that you give yourself time to make mistakes and to learn. That very first group of chickens that I bought, we didn't sell any of those birds. We ended up raising them all for our own use, and we kept a handful back to give to prospective customers for free as samples, and we basically asked them to give us an honest review. Tell us if they're good, tell us if they're not. Let us know whether or not this is something that you would buy, and at the price point we were going to be at, would you be willing to pay what we needed to have to make a profit? And as I mentioned before, whenever we decided to add on pigs into our farming operation, we did the very same thing. The first couple pigs we bought, we raised to learn how to raise pigs. And what that did is it allowed us time to get our sea legs, to kind of get an idea about what we were doing. So now that you know your why and you have found your market or your niche, you need to learn how to be resourceful. Now, what I mean by this is you can very quickly destroy any plans that you have for profitability on your farm by running out and spending a lot of money to buy new equipment, to build brand new infrastructure that can destroy, as I said before, destroy any opportunity you have for profitability, not just in the first year, but for several years to come. And while I'll be the first one to admit that yes, I absolutely do love to go waste a lot of time looking around at all the cool stuff in the farm store, most of the stuff you see in there you don't actually need. For instance, there are some very expensive chicken feeders that you can buy if you want to raise either eggs or pastured poultry. You can buy these nice little 3-foot chicken feeders for about $30, $40 a piece. They're galvanized steel and they look really nice. They set out really nice, and you know, the chickens love them. At least that's what I hear. So this right here is one of the chicken feeders that I built myself whenever I first started raising pastured poultry. It is made from a couple caps, a couple pieces of 2x4, a piece of galvanized conduit, and 4-inch drain pipe. I was able to make 4 5-foot feeders by cutting that pipe in half for, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks. Where, as I said before, if I were to go out and buy a feeder like this, it's going to cost me $30 or $40. And while that's been 12 or so years ago since I made those feeders, I could still use them today. The ones that are broke down because they got run over or beat up for some reason. If I had actually taken good care of them, they would probably still be in a lot better shape. But my point is, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I like to take all kinds of old stuff and see what I can make out of it. Actually, I kind of view it as a challenge. I like to look at a pile of old junk and say, what can I make out of this that's useful, that I will actually use on a regular basis, that will save me money. These pigs here behind me, they have a water barrel that is simply a 55-gallon plastic food grade drum that I've put a bowl drinker on the front of, and I fill it with water ever so often. That barrel cost me like $10 or $15, and actually the drinker was the most expensive part of it. I think I spent maybe $15 or $20 just on the little cast drinker. But I also like to use empty protein tubs that I can pick up from local farmers that use them. And I like to put floats in those, automatic water floats for my cattle, so that I can have water for them wherever they are, if there's not access to a pond or something like that. I've used old bathtubs for stock waterers before. I've used old pallets to make pig shelters and gates. I've used an old clothing rack, an old retail clothing rack, to make a hay feeder for my goats. There's all kinds of things you can do if you're willing to think outside the box and, like I said, be resourceful. Old pallets, scrap steel, reclaimed lumber, all of those things can be the difference between a profit and a loss, especially whenever you're just starting your farm. And since we're on the topic of profit and finances, I think probably one of the best pieces of advice I could give you is to get out of debt, or if you are out of debt, if you don't have any debt right now, don't borrow any money. I have mentioned this before in other videos, and I'm going to say it again. The reason that I say this is based 100% on experience. I have borrowed money on just about everything you can borrow money on whenever it comes to a farm. I've borrowed money on cattle, I've borrowed money on equipment, I've borrowed money on everything that you can borrow money on for a farm. And at the end of the day, I did not get where I was wanting to go any faster when I borrowed money than I would have if I had just waited and stacked up some cash, saved some cash, and made my purchase that way. In fact, the growth of my farm was probably stunted a little bit because I was using whatever profits that I made not to expand my business, but simply to service the debt that I had at the time. So this means that the time will come that we're going to have to make some difficult choices and probably do without whenever it comes to certain things that we would like to have. Now, of course, there are going to be things that have to get done. There are going to be times that you need a piece of equipment or a tool. There's going to be projects that have to be done in order for your farm to operate. However, if you don't have the money to buy what you need with cash, you can borrow, you can rent, you can hire it out just to get by until you get to a point where you feel like you can justify making that purchase again with cash. And the same is true whenever it comes to real estate or farmland. Don't just run out and take out a big mortgage on a piece of property simply because you're ready to jump in with both feet. I've known different farmers out there who were very profitable that didn't own any farmland at all. In fact, they had a house in town. And what these farmers did is they went out and they leased property that they were able to farm in order to build their business up to the point that, again, they felt comfortable buying a piece of property. Now, of course, they didn't just buy a piece of property with cash. You know, they did eventually take out a mortgage, but they made sure that they understood what they were doing, that they could actually make a go of it before they bought the property. Now, the last suggestion that I want to make, if you want to become a farmer, is this: be passionately patient about what you're doing. There's a few passages of scripture out there that use these two words together, and we generally don't use passion and patience in the same sentence because in many ways we kind of see them as opposed to one another in our way of thinking. Now, the point that I'm trying to make here is this: there are just some things that you cannot rush. You cannot force a seed to germinate before it's time for that seed to germinate. You cannot shorten the gestation period of any of your livestock. We have seasons that come and go, yet there is something to be enjoyed, there is something to be valued in each and every one of them. You have to learn how to love the process. You have to be eager for the opportunity to learn and to grow, because at the end of the day, this all comes down to lifestyle. It's about the lifestyle. And the reality is, I think there are a lot of farmers out there that have forgotten that. Even the bad times can be good if you are eager for the process, if you can be passionately patient. Because at the end of the day, farmers are stewards. And what we have in our care, what we manage, we have to manage for the benefit not only of ourselves, but for the benefit of the animals, of the land, and for the benefit of our customers. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you haven't yet, I humbly ask that you would subscribe to our channel if you like this kind of content and you'd want to see more of it. As always, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.